The nation's oldest federally protected national park has a dark history. Hot Springs National Park has been home to many murders, mob affiliation, and unsolved deaths. What's spookier than seeing a ghost through the steam from the natural hot springs? Join us today for our fourth installment of Haunted Parks. Today we'll be talking about my hometown, Hot Springs National Park. Welcome to Morbid Outdoors, the podcast that ventures deep into the shadows of the wild. Here, we unravel the mysteries of missing persons, explore spine-chilling legends, and share the most morbid stories that nature has to offer. From the depths of the dense forests to the highest mountain peaks, we'll uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the great outdoors. Join us as we navigate the eerie, the unexplained, and the terrifying. So if you dare, grab your gear and let's embark on a journey into the unknown. This is Morbid Outdoors. Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I just realized that this was supposed to come out in February, but February was a short month and it was actually quite busy for me, so I did not get around to recording this, and that's why you're seeing this pop up in your feed today. I do want to just ask a question. I'm thinking about starting a Patreon where I would have extra episodes and then just bonus content, maybe videos, pictures, and stuff like that of my travels and hiking, and just a little bit more casual content. I'm thinking about doing a nature news every week and doing a brief kind of episode about the nature in the news, whether it be true crime, a solved case, good news about nature, anything like that. So if you're interested in Patreon, I know I love joining other creators' Patreons to get bonus content. And so if you're interested in that, please let me know. Okay, let's get started. We are actually going to talk about my hometown. I grew up right outside of Hot Springs National Park. And it's got a very special place in my heart. I'm actually going back this summer, and I'm always super excited to go back home. It's such a cute and kitschy national park, and you don't go for nature, you go for the history. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. But we're going to talk about the dark history of Hot Springs National Park. So first, we're going to start with negative reviews. Now, Hot Springs National Park has a ton of negative reviews. I feel most people go and they expect nature and nature and nature. Well, it has some nature, but it's a city. It's the only city that is inside a national park. And the national park was formed because of the city, because of the hot springs. So people go and they leave very disappointed. So that's why I say you go for the history and not the nature. The first negative review says, "Don't waste your time unless you're really into hot springs." The second one says, "I've been to dozens of national parks, and this one was by far the lamest. Do not plan a vacation around this place. It's like a stupid roadside attraction, not a national park." And the last negative review, "I did not see any hot springs like it shows on the internet. Very disappointing, but nice looking old buildings." So fun fact, you cannot soak in these hot springs because they come out of the ground at 144 degrees Fahrenheit. So they will literally burn you. They are so hot, but you can soak in the natural hot water in one of the bathhouses, but they have to cool it down first. So just be prepared. You can't just go get in it. And if you've been, I would love to hear what you think about my hometown, good or bad, because I can find humor in just about anything. Nestled between the Ouachita Mountains is a quaint city called Hot Springs National Park. Hot Springs National Park is the oldest protected area in the national park system. Hot Springs Reservation was initially created by an act of the United States Congress on April 20th, 1832, to be preserved for future recreation. Established before the concept of a national park existed, it was the first time that land had been set aside by the federal government to preserve it to use for recreation later on. It later was designated as a national park on March 4th, 1921. The hot water has been popularly believed for centuries to possess medicinal properties and was a subject of several legends among the indigenous tribes in the area. Following federal protection in 1832, the city developed into a successful spa town. It's about 5,550 acres, and it's the nation's smallest national park. Since Hot Springs National Park is the oldest park maintained by the National Park Service, it was the first to receive its own U.S. quarter in April 2010 as part of the America the Beautiful Quarters coin series. One cool fact that I always love to tell people is that Hernando de Soto first visited in 1541, and he knew there was something special about these hot waters. Another fun fact about hot springs is that in earliest 20th century, it was actually home to the Major League Baseball spring training. Along with that, it was also known for illegal gambling, speakeasies during the Prohibition era, and gangsters such as Al Capone, and horse racing, and much more. We actually have a horse track in my hometown. It's called Oaklawn. I think there's a casino attached to it now, but when I was little, I loved going to the track with my dad and watching the ponies race. It was just really fun activity, and now as an adult, I still enjoy going when I'm back home. In terms of first people, it was around the 18th century that the Caddo indigenous tribe settled in the area. They were followed by the Choctaw, Cherokee, and other tribes from the southeast across the Mississippi River. I got the following information from Wikipedia, so if it's not correct, have a problem with Wikipedia and not me. But there was an agreement among the tribes that they would put aside their weapons and partake of the healing waters in peace while in the valley. The Quapaw lived in the Arkansas River Delta area and also visited the hot springs area. On August 24th, 1818, the Quapaw ceded the land around Hot Springs to the United States in a treaty after having been forced to a reservation south of the site. They were removed to the Indian Territory in the 1830s. After Arkansas became a territory in 1819, the Arkansas Territorial Legislature requested in 1820 that the springs and adjoining mountains be set aside as a federal reservation. So I know in previous episodes I mentioned about colonizers. That's not a bad word, you guys. That's literally what these people were. They were settlers or colonists or whatever you want to call them. But they colonized this area and they took this ancestral land from these tribes, and it sucks, and it was not right. But this land was federally protected, very, very, very long before national parks were actually a thing. The Hot Springs water flows from the western slope of Hot Springs Mountain, which is part of the Ouachita Mountain Range. In the park, the hot springs have not been preserved in their unaltered state. They have actually been capped off because it's so hot, like I already said. So they have been managed to conserve the production of uncontaminated hot water for public use. The mountains within the park are also managed within their conservation philosophy to preserve the hydraulical system that feeds the hot springs. The entire Bathhouse Row area is designated as a National Historic Landmark District. It contains the grandest collection of bathhouses of its kind in North America, including many outstanding examples of Gilded Age architecture. Okay, so I just want to put this in your head. Like imagine like your main street. Ours is called Central Avenue, and there's like so many bathhouses and they're beautiful, beautiful architecture. When they were in their heyday, they were all used as bathhouses, and now they actually all serve different purposes. Superior in 2014 was turned into a brewery, and so you can go and drink a beer there with beer, I mean, from beer that's brewed with the natural hot springs water, which is really cool. One of them is a hotel and has a restaurant in it. The other one is an art gallery. And then one is the National Park Services. It's like, the headquarters of Hot Springs. And then the other one is, it's kind of like a museum, I would say. Now, Hot Springs National Park is very accessible for people with disabilities. Since the park is found inside the city of Hot Springs, it's extremely accessible. You can drive on West Mountain or North Mountain and see beautiful sights. Everything is, I would say, ADA accessible because these are all buildings that have to be accessible for lots of patrons. The Grand Promenade is very, very beautiful. There's just a lot of accessibility in this park, and some of the trails are paved. And so if you are a wheelchair user or you know a wheelchair user, this is an extremely accessible national park to visit. Plus, parking and admission into the park are completely free, and pets are allowed throughout the property, including all hiking trails. Now, I think I saw some of my friends post on Facebook that they're now starting to charge for parking, but there was a free parking structure, or there. I'm not sure. I haven't been home in a couple of years, but there are places you can park for free. According to the Köppen climate classification system, Hot Springs National Park has a humid subtropical climate. And you would know if you've ever visited in the summer because it is hot and humid. There are 230 acres of unlogged pine and oak forests on North and Hot Springs Mountains and 90 acres on Sugarloaf Mountain. These are old-growth forests, and they contain shortleaf pine, blackjack oak, white oak, and many of the trees are over 130 years old. And there are actually a few trees that are over 200 years old, which is honestly a really cool fact. We actually do have bison, and not like roaming freely like in Yellowstone, but we do have them. Elk, cougar, and red wolf, they all left the region after European settlement. So did the bison. Now, there are some farms that still have them, and actually, quite a few years ago, some got out, and now we have buffalo days in May, I think. But we had a lot more wildlife before people started settling there. Present-day fauna include white-tailed deer, wild turkey, squirrel, rabbit, opossums, foxes, coyotes, skunks, raccoons, gophers, weasels, minks, rats, chipmunks, frogs, and the 9-banded armadillo. Here's your trivia fact of the day. This water from Hot Springs is more than 4,000 years old. Another fun fact about Hot Springs, I mentioned earlier, Superior Bathhouse Brewery. Hot Springs is the only national park with a brewery. It opened in 2014, and it's the only brewery in a U.S. national park and the only brewery in the world using thermal spring water as its main ingredient. It's housed in the former Superior Bathhouse, which operated from 1916 to 1983 on Bathhouse Row in downtown Hot Springs, the longest continuous operation of all the Hot Springs bathhouses. You can get free water. There are free water stations all over this city. You can bring jugs of any size, and a lot of people, that's where they get their water, and it is good water. If you've ever had Mountain Valley water, it's often in green bottles or green aluminum cans. That is from Hot Springs National Park in the Ouachita Mountains. That's the water I grew up drinking, and it is the best tasting water. So if you see it in a store or on a menu somewhere, you should try it if you haven't, because once you taste Mountain Valley water, you'll never go back. Like I said earlier in this episode, this is the oldest federally protected land in the US, and there's been a lot of crime and a lot of bloodshed. Now, you might be thinking, why am I covering this on our episode of Haunted Parks? Well, there are several ghost stories, and many of the buildings downtown are haunted. If you've been to Hot Springs, you've probably been into and shopped at the Bathhouse Soapery and Caldarium. I hope I'm saying that right. Now, this is a place, it's actually super cool. They make soaps and scrubs and all kinds of sorts of fun bath things. And actually, both of my sisters worked there. My older sister worked there, and my younger sister worked there. And I did not know that it was haunted, but there, like I said, there are dozens of soaps, scrubs, and salves located in this shop that is directly across from Bathhouse Row. It's very popular with tourists and it's popular with locals. But what happens when the lights go down and the suds are washed away? Well, like I said, had no idea, but this place is apparently haunted. There was a murder that took place here in 1922, so over 100 years ago, and this woman's ghost still supposedly haunts the Bathhouse Soapery. Before it was the Bathhouse Soapery, it was previously a Japanese tea room, and a beautiful girl named Violet Bowles worked here after high school. She had a friend named Elmer Jones, and Elmer was pretty, I want to say, obsessed. The source material says that it was infatuation, but I'm going to call it what it was. And he was obsessed with her. He was obsessed with her in school when they were in school together. And that obsession kept going after high school. And it wasn't a healthy obsession. I did read a news article from a family member that is kin to Violet, and she actually had a lot to say. And so a lot of this information is coming straight from this family member. She said that Violet was working in the Japanese tea room, and Elmer would repeatedly come into the tea room and ask her out a lot. And this family member said that they were actually friends. Violet was very kind, but she said, Elmer, that's all I want. We can be friends, and that's all I want. Like I said, Elmer was obsessed with her. Elmer's obsession with Violet continued after high school, even after fighting in World War I while living away from Hot Springs. There's a letter that's dated March 6, 1921, sent from Sacramento, California, and it's from Elmer to Violet, and this is what it says. Quote, Dear Violet, you probably think by this time I am not going to keep my promise and that I have forgotten you, but I have not, and I cannot forget you. End quote. Another letter with an unknown date indicates Elmer had proposed to Violet at least once. Quote, Yes, I remember the time I proposed and you refused, but what if I should do it again? What is your answer? End quote. I'm assuming that after war, Elmer might have had PTSD. And as we all know, that was not a diagnosis back then, but he did serve in combat and he returned to Hot Springs where he visited what was then the Japanese tea room at 366 Central Avenue. Violet was working there, and after being rejected on every single occasion, on December 2nd, 1922, Elmer walked into the tea room, tapped Violet on the shoulder, and when she turned around, he shot her 3 times. He then turned the gun on himself and completed suicide. It's said that even today, when standing in the store's back left corner, you may feel like him touching your shoulder. Several people have claimed that they've seen the ghost of Violet, but other people have said that they felt a tap on the shoulder, and when they turn around, no one's there. So very cool, interesting place, and interesting article that I read from Violet. It's like her great niece or something like that. Really interesting read. Our next place we're going to talk about being haunted is the Army Navy Hospital. My grandmother actually lived here for a brief time while she was in rehab after a car accident. So this one is super creepy. It's probably the creepiest thing about Hot Springs National Park. Now, this was a like it was the Army Navy hospital. It's not called that anymore, but all the locals still call it that. This site is no stranger to death. In fact, kill outs weren't uncommon, taking out entire floors of people when one fatal illness would make its rounds. And in 1941, it actually had the worst kill out in the building's history. In 1941, they had a soldier show up late in the day. He had swollen ankles and a light fever. And when he came to the doctor said, "I tell you what, it's late in the day. We're going to get x-rays of your ankles. We're going to put you to bed and get you a good night's rest. We'll get you some food to eat, and I'll be back in the morning to look at the x-rays and talk to you about your mobility." And the soldier said that sounded good. So they put the soldier to bed, and the next morning, the soldier woke up and he was so sick that he could hardly get out of bed. 2 days later, the rash showed up. 3 days after that, he was dead. And 7 days after that, the entire floor was dead. 3 weeks later, nearly 90% of all the people in the hospital were dead. Now, I took a ghost tour in my own hometown, and it was more for history, and it's been quite several years ago. But basically, I heard through this tour that they stored bodies on the 4th floor. There were so many corpses lined against the walls of that particular floor. There's screams from empty rooms. Those screams would taunt the nurses. And there were a lot of nervous breakdowns and suicides because of this floor. And eventually, the entire floor was sealed off, and all of those souls were basically entombed. To this day, the elevator still does not stop on that floor. It was a rehab for a while, and now it's like a vocational training center for people with disabilities. I think that's what it's doing now. And last I heard, I thought it was getting renovated, but basically the 4th floor has not been accessible for years because there were so many weird things happening there. Another creepy building is the Arlington Resort Hotel and Spa. This is actually where I had my debutante ball. It's a very pretty old hotel, but it's also haunted. And there's so much history in this hotel. But basically, employees and guests have swapped unexplainable experiences. Basically, it's like urban legend stuff, like light flickers and there's dimming, even after electricians come by and check the wiring. There's been footprints seen in the carpet in front of room 723, and the hotel just kind of really has this overall eerie feeling. While at the hotel, you may meet the woman dressed in a white gown walking the halls of the 7th floor. Or perhaps the man resembling a soldier who was seen taking a bath in the men's side of the hotel's bathhouse. Check into room 824 or 443 to have a night full of haunts. In room 824, there have been reports of the bathroom sink turning on and steaming up the room, items falling off of shelves, lights turning on and off between the hours of 3 and 4 a.m. Room 443, also known as the Capone Suite, where the infamous American gangster Al Capone stayed. This was like his favorite place to stay in Hot Springs. Guests have reported the smell of a cigar, and this is a non-smoking hotel, so very weird that you would smell very strong cigar smoke. Another strange experience that may just be Capone himself is guests having heard and seen the room's connecting doorknob turn despite there being no doorknob on the other side. Now, I mentioned the woman in white earlier. Stories go that there's 2 stories, and I'm not sure exactly which one is true, but this is just from the ghost tour that I took many years ago. So apparently, this woman was in a white gown and she wanted to jump off of the top of the building, and she did. But she landed on like an outcropping, and so that didn't kill her, so she jumped off again. And then I also heard a rumor slash legend, I'm not sure, about a woman being found dead in the pool on the top of the hotel. So I didn't find actual information about that online, so I'm not sure if it's just a local legend or what, but the Arlington Hotel is probably very much haunted. Another haunted place in this national park is the Ohio Club. Now, this is a local eatery and a bar. You have to be 21 to enter. I've never been in, but I think this summer I might go. It's just like an older crowd. That's why I've never been. But basically, apparently they have really, really good burgers, and it's also really, really haunted. It's the oldest bar in Arkansas, and it has a past full of illegal gambling, and guests like gangsters like Al Capone, Bugsy Siegel, Lucy Luciano, they all frequented this joint. For years, the owners and employees have encountered numerous unexplainable experiences after hours. There's just been many things happen, like doors slamming, glasses clinking, or music playing. And people are so used to it now that they just kind of ignore it and let it be, which is very interesting because I don't know if I could do that. Another haunted location in Hot Springs is the Malco Theater. The Malco Theater has sat at 817 Central Avenue since being rebuilt after a 1935 fire. And since magician Maxwell Blade, that's his name, began managing the building in 1996, he has witnessed countless eerie happenings, something no old theater is immune to. He says he has not seen a ghost, but he has heard one a couple of times. One night, when exiting the main theater, Maxwell Blade heard a theater seat folding up and down, followed by a shadow figure crossing the exit. He left quickly and did not return alone past sundown for quite some time. Maxwell, that would definitely freak me out too. And this is a place where we actually would go for school field trips. So I've been there before. It's really cool. Really cool to catch a magic show. Another unexplainable occurrence is at the Malco when Blade, he's got kids, and his now adult daughter, she would ask at the age of 3, who was the little boy always standing at the top of the theater staircase? No one else could see this child. Only his daughter could see this child. And so, it's obviously been a very long time, but that was just a weird thing that would happen. She would ask, who's that little boy? He's at the top of the staircase, and there was no one there. There have been 4 people who have died in the Malco, one of which is rumored to be a little boy in the upstairs bathroom of the theater in the 1970s. I couldn't find any information on who this might be, but I don't know. Why have there been 4 people that have died in this theater? That's really freaking weird. Even guests have had haunted encounters while coming into the theater for a show. Some have left before the show even began because they were so scared. And a few patrons have actually wet themselves in fear, like very, very haunted. Now, Blade has been, I don't know, he's an eccentric guy. If you have ever seen him, you know what I'm talking about, but he says he thinks it's haunted and it's the perfect spot. Like, why wouldn't he keep staying there? It's a fun place. And he says that when he goes, he wants to be here. So he'll be hanging around the Malco after he leaves the earth. You might be surprised to hear that West Mountain is apparently haunted. I read an article and someone said that they actually warned tourists about a young man who appeared on the side of the road on the way up West Mountain. People swore that the man disappeared from sight if they looked in their rearview mirrors after passing him. And where it gets spooky is that a man in this person's group, he was doing tours, he started crying and told us that his son had gone insane when he was sent to prison for murder. And when he died, the father spread his ashes all around the mountain because it had been his favorite place to visit. So I don't know, is this ghost that appears and then just disappears? Was it this man's son? Quite possibly. Multiple bodies have been found on West Mountain. On Tuesday, July 11th, 1995, there was a homicide. This is from the incident reports for Hot Springs National Park. On June 26, a visitor hiking just off of a trail on Hot Springs Mountain came upon a body of S.W.82 of Hot Springs. Those are the initials. SW had apparently been killed 3 to 4 days previously. The agent in charge of the Hot Springs FBI office characterized the killing as an exceptionally brutal murder. Specific details are not being released, but suspects have been identified in the local area. The investigation is being conducted by rangers and FBI agents in conjunction with staff at the state crime lab. That's the first body that was found that I could find record of. The second time happened on November 26, 2006. A body was found by a jogger on Mountaintop Trail on West Mountain, about 1/10 of a mile up the trail from Prospect Avenue. Bones, clothing, and personal items, including a purse, were found at the scene. The remains were identified through dental records from when this woman had work on her teeth done while imprisoned in Dallas, Texas. She was in prison for prostitution. Her name was Martha Teresa Lamas. She was 38, and her decomposed remains were the ones that were found on November 26 by that jogger. National Park Service Ranger Amanda DeFries said Wednesday that Lamas was reported missing in August 2007, but she said forensic tests have not revealed when she was killed. So that's just from a news article that I found. It took a while for this woman to be identified, and I don't know. It's a homicide, probably, and it's unsolved. And she was found almost 20 years ago, and still her case is not solved. And I have a sinking feeling that her case might not be solved or even at the top of anyone's list because she was a prostitute. And while I don't know, it's just, I just hate it because I hate that her name and her story is not going to get the attention that it deserves. In July of 2017, police say that the body of an out-of-state middle-aged man was discovered around 11:50 a.m. on West Mountain. This is unsolved, and I did not find it on any reports, which, I don't know, it's kind of weird. There's been numerous bodies that have been found, Whittington Avenue, West Mountain area. I don't know. I've always held the belief that, there could be a serial killer. And in fact, just a few years ago, I think in 2021, maybe it was 2020, a woman was found with her hands chopped off. That's not in the reports either, but dang. And because Hot Springs is a city and it's a national park, the FBI are always involved with these cases. And I just find it strange that none of these cases have been solved. So I always think, is there a serial killer out there? I don't know. But I'm just saying that this park gets a lot of tourism, even more in recent years. And it's got a really, really dark history and lots of crime. Doing this episode has really made me miss my home, even though it sounds really sketchy. It sounds sketchy, but it's a really pretty nice place to visit. In fact, I think I might have to take my husband to the Malco Theater. He's never been. So I hope you guys enjoyed our 4th installment of Haunted Parks. If you've been to Hot Springs National Park and had a ghostly encounter, comment, send it to me for a campfire story. I would love that. I would also just love to know if you've ever even been to Hot Springs National Park. I'm just so psyched to go back this summer. It's going to be great. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day. As always, recreate responsibly and remember, sometimes the great outdoors aren't always great. Thanks for listening to Morbid Outdoors. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, make sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. It's free, easy, and it helps us out immensely. When you subscribe, you get updates on our latest episodes, and it also boosts our visibility making it easier for other curious souls to find us. Another great way to support Morbid Outdoors is by leaving us a review. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, a quick review helps us know what you love about the show. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Morbid Outdoors Podcast. You can email us case suggestions and your campfire stories at morbidoutdoorspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks so much for the support, and I'll see you next time. If you're here right now, thank you so much for sticking around. This is kind of where I talk about more personal things. I know some of you have said you prefer it in the beginning, but the majority have said they enjoy it at the end. In terms of personal stuff, there's not really much going on. I'm just so looking forward to spring break. I have 4 weeks of work and then I get a week off, and my husband and I are going to be going down through southern Utah to northern New Mexico. I'm so excited to visit New Mexico, and I plan to do quite a bit of hiking and also visit some places I haven't been in a long time. I did not go for a hike today. I'm really bummed. The weather was amazing, but I wasn't feeling that great. So no hike for me this week, but I'm just happy that spring seems to be right around the corner. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next time.